The issues.
Everybody respected that because it was coming from the president.
Theory behind it, the way the people took the battle in their hands.
Some civil servant retired without a roof over his head.
The cause.
If we cannot trust you, then you cannot take the ticket of this country. Hussein cannot be divulged from those who cause the crisis. Honestly.
The passion.
You must have national spread. So where is it?
Why are you so concerned about that? He said money was.
I never.
No.
The platform is always the same.
Insight on Citizen FM 93.7.
The source is constant.
My name is Lawrence Omoete.
There is always an opportunity.
Tomorrow, Insight returns with another interesting.
Insight with Lawrence Omoete on Citizen 93.7 FM Abuja. Be part of the experience.
Citizen FM Abuja.
Abuja.
Wake up. Reach out. Speak up. Speak out. You are the voice of a new generation. And this
is your station.
Talk Radio 93.7 Citizen FM.
Well, it's so great to be with you on Insight today on Citizen FM 93.7. My name is Lawrence Omoete. Leadership challenges and Nigeria's development. That's something that we need to talk about. The most critical challenges confronting Nigeria, and some would believe include leadership. These leadership challenges are evident in political, social, and economic instability sometimes, and the prevailing ethnic, communal, and religious crisis, which have taken part in Nigeria, and it has affected our socio-economic development. Leadership and good governance are crucial to realizing any giant stride taken in pursuit of development anywhere in the world, and Nigeria is not an exception. It is believed that genuine leadership will need an honest, courageous, and credible followership, which is less vulnerable to the manipulative politics of the ruling elite. It should possess knowledge, sound judgment, and be committed to specific causes and ideas. The pursuit of people-based economic programs has the potential to foster democratic governance within the context of quality followership. This class should secure democratized access to economic resources and political objects to foster trust, confidence, and commitment. On Insight today, we will be staying with the leadership challenges and Nigeria's development. I have a guest, very interesting personality in the studio. His name is Olumide Ajomale. He is the National President, Learning and Development Network International. Welcome to Insight, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Olumide Ajomale is an accomplished professional with diverse skill set and a strong background in finance and professional development. He holds the prestigious designation of Chartered Accountant and has established himself as a learning and development practitioner, a master practitioner, certified professional trainer, facilitator, and coach. He is currently the President Chairman of Council of Learning and Development Network International. He is a fellow of the fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Training and Development, and on and on and on. I can go on. Once again, welcome to Insight.
Thank you. Thank you once again.
Yes, you can join the program on our live stream on YouTube. You can type in Citizen FM or Insight, and you will be part of the show from anywhere in the globe. You can also follow us on social media, on our social media platforms, 3 of them on Facebook at Citizen FM Abuja, on Instagram at CitizenFM937, and also on Twitter, that's on X, at CitizenFM937. And by 10:30, we will open the phone lines. Let's start this way. When I was looking through your organization, the vision for the LDN, I gathered, was born in May 2011 when 9 Nigerian professionals who attended a training development in somewhere in the United States in Florida met at a conference, and they decided to replicate a forum like that in Nigeria. The rest, as we say in this part of the world, is history. So let's start by asking, what has been the staying power of the LDN?
Well, thank you very much, Lawrence. And of course, LDNI, Learning and Development Network International, as you rightly pointed out, started out in 2011. And it was just 11 Nigerians who attended the conference for what is now known as ATD, Association of Talent and Development. That's the largest gathering of talent development professionals in the United States. But of course, it has membership across the globe. And the conferences are literally a pilgrimage where people come from all over the world. And so at that conference, Nigerians who wanted to expand their scope and knowledge and met and said, "Oh, you're here. If we've enjoyed this, why can't we go back home and replicate this?" So that's how that started. And they got back, and I wasn't part of the 11, but I was now part of those who met with them soon after, and we then agreed to set up what now has become LDNI. And of course, in this space, we have grown to become the foremost learning and development professional group that simply promotes the practice of learning and development. I must say here that what we used to call training many years back is what we refer to now as learning and development. Because really, as an art, as a science, the scope has expanded, and we have now deepened this practice, creating awareness, creating a network for professionals to be together, and of course, giving back into society, creating avenues where we can impact not just ourselves as a body, but our involvement in society at large. So it's been a long journey, and it's nice to be here. I emerged the third president at our conference in Lagos in September. So we've had 2 presidents ahead of
before you.
Yes.
Okay, let's come back home and let's look at the Nigerian question. A lot has been said about leadership, and so many books have been written about leadership and everything. But to your mind, what would you say is, let's start from the bane of leadership in Nigeria?
Okay, so I'm always a bit careful when I want to talk about leadership. And I often start from this angle and say, unfortunately, when we talk leadership, the first thing that jumps out at us is political leadership, right? And I think it's unequivocal that we all agree that political leadership has been the poor example of leadership in an environment. And so everything that can go wrong when you don't get leadership right, particularly in the political space, is the consequence of what we have today. But I dare say that it's not all bad news. And I say this because there are people who, in various walks of life, exemplify the virtues of leadership, and they do exist. So I often tell people, that's your neighbor somewhere here. When we define what true leadership is, many people fit into those molds, and we see them every day. There are everyday companions. I mean, your supervisor at work, your general manager, somebody in the community, your religious leader. I mean, that doesn't apply to everyone, but so the concept of leadership is good to to the extent that we can point out that it works in some spheres. But the major area that really should have been that should have provided the beacon and light for development has been political leadership. So if we then look back at contemporary definitions of leadership, now we often say that leadership is not about your title
or the office.
So we're beginning to focus on what true leadership is. Leadership, I mean, there's a popular author that I follow, Simon Sinek, and I like his definition. And he says leadership is a lifestyle. So what it then means is that it is the things you do or don't do that qualify you to be referred to as a leader. And the things are every day. And the three words that I typically bandy: leaders are influential. They create influence. You see someone and look at them and say, wow, I'd like to emulate this person. That's a virtue of leadership. Leadership is about motivation, getting people to see and do the things they ordinarily wouldn't do. So you hear words and phrases like, Lawrence, you've got a good heart. I think you can do this. And I simply just create a nudge inside you. And the next thing you know, Lawrence, you're up and about and you're doing this. And the third is inspiration. Creating the big picture, seeing way ahead, where, in quotes, mere mortals don't see. So you find somebody who walks up to you and say, Lawrence, do you know that you can be general manager in XYZ company in the next 2 years? And you're wondering, where's this one coming from? But he's seen something bigger that you haven't seen. And creating that picture for you now makes you want to begin that journey. And then somewhere down the line, there's that accomplishment. So how can we begin to relate this within the political sphere? Do we have men and women in great number that you can say are of influence by their person? Can you say that there are men and women who, by their person, blot out words that are positive and encouraging? Or would you say there are men and women in this sphere who really talk about the big picture of where your community, your state, or Nigeria as a country can be? And I'm sure you know that there's a lot of sweet talk at the political podium. So, Lawrence, and I don't know whether you have political aspirations, but I imagine So I imagine you being on the soapbox saying, I will provide jobs for you. There will be 1,000 new jobs or 1 million new jobs. Hey, Lawrence, 2 years down the line, let's put it
not provided one.
Let us put it in local balance with the job day. So people then lose hope when you create those situations and they don't happen. People lose hope when all they see around you are examples of things that shouldn't be done. We all say corruption. We also know that corruption is not all about stealing money alone. That's abuse of office. And it's, everybody knows. Even though people who will benefit from you will hail you. But even while I'm hailing you, I simply know that, come on, this is wrong. So if we put all of this together, it then tells you that if we put a score around political leadership, in the true sense of leadership, it's a far cry from what can propel any environment for meaningful progress.
Okay, I'm glad you use that, but let's look at this way. There are a lot of people who believe that Africans, okay, maybe Nigerians, we seem to have this monarchical system in our DNA. The way we treat our leaders like kings, we revere them, not only in the political space, in the family space, even in our religious circles. We look at them as people who do no wrong, who cannot be questioned and everything. And at the end of the day, this also has to do with our belief system and our value orientation. How do we put all this side by side with current realities?
And you're right. But don't also let us forget that even in a historical context, there have been traditional societies where a king has been chased out of his kingdom. Why? Poor leadership. Probably failed in all three dimensions that I enumerated, right? So even in the hierarchical, monarchical settings, you will still know that that's your king self. You get as it be. Once anybody passes that judgment, you're really not a king anymore. So do your people truly see you as a king? And let's bring this back into the home front. And I tease when I say this again, you know. So what do you find? The traditional setting, they say, man, you're the head of the family, right? And you are throwing your weight around. Well, head of the family. So you know what I call that? That's just a title. But if you're not playing the roles that truly make you the head of the family, you're not leading that family. And that's why we find many women slip into those roles. And that's why you find a man who says, don't you know who I am? I am the head of this family. The minute a man blots that out,
he has lost it.
He's lost it. And so, what does it take to truly lead the family beyond the title? Play the roles of influence. Create examples, exemplary lifestyle that your children, your wife, or your spouse can emulate. Your children look at you and say, oh, that's my dad. I'm proud of him. And you know how many men walk back home and the kids just simply disappear.
Yeah.
Right?
I can relate.
But you now know that modern day parenting is beginning to realize that you can't be the leader in the house and be scared, and be scared of rather. So women fill these roles. They pat the child on the back. Don't worry, all will be good. Your scores are low. I'm going to make sure that I sit down and I coach you. But you know what the man is busy doing? Walking in and out of the house, shouting, bringing money home. They collect the money, but they go get close to the mother. And the mother plays those roles. So, again, we need to move away from those very traditional insights that we've all grown up with. And that's why learning is happening every day. This space has changed. So if we come back to relating this back into political leadership, and I just said this back this way, I think we need to begin to breed and encourage a new set of people who are ready to step out, who are ready to be emulatable by their lifestyle, that they have the power of words, conduct, that simply encourage people to understand and follow them. But more importantly, can they also step out courageously and begin to solve problems? Lawrence, you and I know that many things in this country have remained unsolved for too long. Leaders solve problems. So why are we battling with the same things over and over and over again? So it is still back to understanding the contemporary concept of leadership, whether it's in governance, whether it's in the home, and even in church. Hey, some of any religious setting, I mean, again, beyond you going in for prayers and all that, you look at the lifestyle of your leader and wonder, why do you think some people leave some churches or mosque, as the case may be? I can't relate with that pastor anymore. His lifestyle is not encouraging. And the reverse is the case, where you find people throng an environment and they say, well, you know what, next to God, that's the man, right? And that can be the power of true leadership.
Okay, let's look at vision now, because when you're talking about leadership, a leader must also have vision and must look at the bigger picture all the time. Who should be taking the lead when we are looking for leadership?
Okay, so I often say there's no need to look for leadership. There's always someone playing a leading role
At every point
in time. It is acknowledging and maybe assigning a title to that person, or the vie for office, or so that's why we must begin to see how we can populate the environment with people who have leadership skills and competencies, right? So daring to be different, being courageous, being truthful, standing up, being dedicated, being committed. Those are the things that will begin to stand you out. And if you don't exhibit those things, then you don't qualify to be able to step into those kind of roles. People will ignore you. And when people jokingly say, you, if they give you work now, go do more. That's a statement. And there's someone that will say, even they would say in local pants, you sabi if you go small, but I like the way you did do your thing. That is simply acknowledging that there's somebody doing. And so what we need to do is push those type of persons forward. Now, in the workplace particularly, you will see that there's been a greater attention to issues around leadership. And you know why? Organizations that are led by poor leaders will fail. Ultimately. So organizations are protective. That's why in organizational personal development and skills enhancement, today one of the most taught skills now is about leadership. Once you get leadership right, many more things key in.
Okay, what is the place of mentorship? What is the place of volunteerism? Because I remember those days when we were growing up, we were encouraged to volunteer, help people, and also be selfless. At the end of the day, when you imbibe these values and you eventually find yourself in a position to lead men, you already know that you are offering a selfless service.
Thank you. You touched on one of the key attributes of leadership now. And it's not far-fetched. These are values that are imbibed from very young ages. So you're right when your mother says, go and help that man carry his load. Or go for the Boy Scout meeting, right? Or go and join a group in church and all that. Those are just ways and means of letting you know that you should make yourself available to step out, support, help, be selfless. That's at the heart of leadership. So, again, like some organizations do, you promote somebody to the next grade simply because they have technical skills, right? But you know the danger that lies ahead. They cannot manage their people, right? Now, what you can not teach a man who's been stuck in his ways will just be that he would literally, as it were, mismanage his team. But when you're looking for people who have what you now begin to call people skills, right? Which is understanding how to mentor people, how to be selfless, how to be there, and even the basic things about how to care for people, bearing them in mind. So I have a subordinate, he comes up to me and says, boss, I'm struggling with this assignment. Can you put me through? I'm not going to reply and say, but I thought you had a PhD. I thought you had all the degrees in the world. But he's in a new environment, so he needs to be encouraged. The more I put in help to help him grow, that is part of helping them see, and they simply go back recognizing that my growth has been because somebody took me in their wings and their hands and got me to where I am. So yes, the place of mentorship, the place of coaching, the place of allowing people become real so that they can grow. And the more they grow, the better it is for them. And they can replicate this. And so we often say leaders breed leaders. If you benefited from someone who's helped you grow, the next natural thing for you to do is replicate this and allow other people grow. So if we extend this back into contemporary societal settings, even in political circles, and you'll find that in advanced democracies, what you find is they look for younger people and give them roles and responsibilities, and there's somebody who's encouraging them. And that's why you find it's easy in the UK to find a 45-year-old emerge as prime minister. He's only had 10-15 years parliamentary experience. In the United States, it's no different, even though sometimes you find older men still remaining on the top, like you have Biden and Trump. Yes, but how old was Obama?
Even Clinton.
And Clinton. So you will see that they were mentored into those positions. But we can use those as metaphors and bring this down the line and say, if you really want an environment where leadership values, they must be deepened right from early age, and of course giving people responsibilities and roles right from the onset. So that's why I started off by looking at Simon Sinek's definition, which says leadership is a lifestyle. It's the things you do or don't do that truly makes you stand out,
and not necessarily what you say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what you say, as long as people can key into it, because your words are also powerful.
But when it happens that what you say is different from what you do, people tend to believe what you do.
True that, and absolutely.
All right, it's still inside Citizen FM 93.7, and I've been having a very interesting discussion with my guest, Olumide Ajomale, who is the National President, Learning and Development Network International. Inside, we'll take a short break, and when we return, the phone lines will be open. Please don't go away.
Wake up. Reach out. Speak up. Speak out. You are the voice of a new generation. And this
is your station.
Talk Radio 93.7 Citizen FM.
Are you a worker in a company? Are you working for the government? Are you an employer of labor, or are you a businessman? No matter what work you do, join us on Workers' Half Hour every Thursday from 2 to 2:30 p.m. Workers' Half Hour is educational and entertaining, and also interactive. Let us discuss the challenges and beauty of working together. Workers' Half Hour every Thursday, 2 to 2:30 p.m. on Citizen FM 93.7 Abuja. Workers build the nation.
Looking for the best in news updates?
Yeah, man.
Listen to Citizen FM 93.7 Abuja.
Now listen.
News on the hour, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and 5 p.m. News at noon, 12 noon. News from across the states, 4 p.m. And our major news at 6 p.m. Citizen FM 93.7. Always precise in news broadcast.
The issue. Abuja.
Wake up. Reach out. Speak up. Speak out. You are the voice of a new generation. And this
is your station.
Talk Radio 93.7 Citizen FM.
Thank you for for staying tuned. It's still Insight on Citizen FM 93.7. My name is Lawrence Omoete. Welcome to the second half of the show. My guest is still in the studio, Olumide Ojamale. He is the National President, Learning and Development Network International. Thank you for staying tuned, sir. All right. Yes, you can join us on our live stream if you've not done so on YouTube. Type in Citizen FM 93.7 and you will be part of the show. Our social media platforms are still there. Facebook at Citizen FM Abuja, on Instagram at Citizen FM 937, and also on X at Citizen FM 937. And the phone lines are open now. You can call us on 0903 29797 or 0818-2222-205 or 0818-2222-206. We are looking at leadership. We are looking at development in Nigeria. We are looking at bringing the younger generation on board. This issue has always been bothering a lot of commentators, political commentators. They insist that businesses, especially successful businesses, are driven by human capital. Even nations who are doing well are driven by human capital. But why is our politics, especially in this part of the world, not driven by human capital, especially on its merit?
Well, touchy question, but then frank response. Let's put it this way. I think what we've found in the political space is that it's populated by what I would call our second, third, or fourth 11. We have not allowed the bright minds take center stage in our political development. And I don't want to wash all politicians with the same brush. But we really have so many people who have no business in those positions. Again, I'm not here to take a jab at anyone.
Yeah, we're just speaking generally.
So, for as long as we are not putting our best hands forward, the best hands are not in charge of our economy. The best hands are not in charge of our foreign affairs ministries. The best hands are not in charge of virtually all sectors. You're going to get what we have. Isn't it worrying that the human development indices remain as poor as they've been for the last 15, 20 years? So let's take some simple things. Child mortality. Nigeria still has one of the highest rates of children under 2 years dying. Nigeria still has one of the highest rates of out-of-school children. And you can pick up all the statistics. In today's day and age where data is driving many things, somebody should lock up our political leaders and simply just ask them and say, what have you done better with these indices? Rather, it gets worse. So there's a fundamental issue. And like you rightly said, and I pointed this out earlier, I said, successful businesses are run by the best hands. Organizations look for the best hands to be in charge. And if they make a mistake somewhere, and you find that this happens in multinationals, they put somebody there and for some odd reason, the judgment of this person isn't right. Quickly, there is this person out of office and bring somebody else who creates a balance, and they make better decisions and they become more successful. So if we don't have this mindset of really saying that our people are our greatest assets, And if they're your greatest asset, don't put on the reserve bench your best hands and bring onto the field.
Okay, sorry, we need to take this call. Let me see. Oh, it's dropped. Well, you can call back. The number is 0903 22797. You can also call us on 0818 205 or 0818 206. You can also send us a WhatsApp message and just let us know where you're writing in from, and we will read your message. Let's look at the issue of development. That's another challenging area for us as a nation, especially in Nigeria and even in Africa. Why is this such a huge issue for successive governments over the years, right from before pre-colonial or during the pre-colonial era up till now? Why is this such a big issue?
It's just about priorities. It's about priorities. People are just not understanding that if we make the Nigerian space comfortable, everybody derives the benefit of comfort. I don't know when last you've been through our airports, and let's use that as a metaphor for the Nigerian story. Incidentally, maybe it's under 5% of Nigerians that use the airports, but this is the cream of the cream. You will go through your own airport, and you know the people who are managing these airports, and you see how poorly they service the passengers, and everybody drops off in another destination and walks out into the comfort and the beauty of the environment wherever you go. Even some of our next door neighbors in African countries. And you go spend 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 10 years, and you come back and you come through the same drag. That for me is understanding how we don't like ourselves. So imagine if you make your airports decent and comfortable. It's for everyone. It's for you, even these officers or these political leaders and what have you. Now let's liken that into many other things. Our roads. I'm in Abuja and I see these lovely roads. But this is Abuja. This isn't reflective of what happens all over the country. This isn't. So if anybody is sitting down here and enjoying the roads in Abuja, spare me. This should be replicated across the country. Now, when you can't have the same type of basic facilities, do you know what we should change ourselves in? Goods, people can't move freely. It's part of what impedes development.
Okay, yeah, I can see the calls dropping. I don't know exactly what's happening. Seems to be a network issue, but the lines are still open. 0903 2229797. You can also call us on 0818 2222205 or 0818 2222206. So on Citizen FM here, we really pay attention to developmental journalism and try to make sure that we encourage Nigerians to be part of governance, and especially younger Nigerians, because the future, as they say, belongs to them. Do we need a school of leadership or governance school or whatever to groom the next generation?
Yes and no. Yes, while leadership can be taught, and it's an art, it's a skill that can be taught. So many people can learn the basics of leadership. So you probably get to understand some of these values that you didn't know existed and could make you a better person, and you can impact your environment. That's good. But I think a lot more of what we need is a reorientation of our values.
Okay. So where do we start from there?
So anyone, and this is me making a prescription, anyone who flouts the basics of standing now to be referred to as a leader should be removed, and look for, headhunt, and put somebody who indeed will live those values. And you'll be amazed how people will key in and simply follow through. Leadership is very infectious. When people see good leaders, they applaud them, they like them. And you know why? There are results. And so leadership is not just it's not just a game. The outcome of leadership is something to see, to show. Results. So if you are not getting results, please, there must be something that easily eases you out and brings someone else in. And somebody else who does this very well is applauded. They also groom other people to be able to step in, and then literally over a period of time you have an environment that simply has bred leaders. It sounds so easy, but I can tell you it is uneasy to do. But what's the difficult thing here is just the mindset. It's the mindset. Once we as a people sit back and say, why have we suffered for so long? I mean, God has endowed us. And every time everybody says, oh, Nigeria is talent, we are talented. Tell me which country doesn't have talent. It is what you do with your talent that is important. So we should stop referring to Nigeria as talented, Nigeria is blessed. Actually, every country is blessed in one way or the other. Even countries that are seemingly unendowed have found other ways and means to overcome the difficulties and are even more prosperous. So that should tell us something. So I think it's a time for us to consciously, as a people, this is not one man's responsibility. And in talking to the younger generation, it is time they also step up, understanding that this is time for them to do what the older ones have not done. And if they can, then they are likely to be in a position to remedy a lot of what has gone wrong. But if they copy and continue in the mold of what has happened, oh, I tell you that they're going to be hit more. Reason being that the world has moved so fast in the last couple of years that it is no longer room for people who are indolent. And indolence means no results, right? So I'm drawing this analogy to saying it's a wake-up call. Many of us at this stage, I'm farther from from where I started from now, but for many,
closer to where you're going.
Exactly. But many more people who, and you see, we say at least statistics say that we're about 65% of the Nigerian population is under 35. Now that is a sizable part that need to determine how they want to live their lives going forward. Nobody's going to help them. We've got a system where, and I keep saying that, look, a 70-year-old man, God sparing his life, on average has another 10, 15, 20 years, right? But the man who is 35, the man who's 20, has 50 years to live. Why don't you put the destiny in their hands? They know what they should be looking forward to. And I just use this age as an analogy, not necessarily. I mean, they're bright 70-year-olds, you know. But we must allow the younger ones. And like they say, leadership isn't served a la carte. They must also step up. And it's when people recognize, you just find out that, look, in fact, the oldies will simply say, you know, that's a bright guy. That's a young lady who's focused. And I said we have them in pockets, but we need to deepen the population of people who have a leadership mindset. And that, for me, I think is an ultimate way to go.
Okay, you spoke about the reorientation, the need for that. What is the place of the family in the setup?
Of course, it's a starting point. It's a starting point. That's why you talk about values. I mean, look, if you have a 3-year-old and you begin to say, this is what you do, this is what you shouldn't do. That's what many people grow up with. But unfortunately, at 15, 16, 17, they begin to mingle. And if you mingle with many more people who were not brought up the way you were brought up,
you're going to be influenced.
Now, it would be different if I'd been influenced this way and I met somebody who, in quote, had better values. I'm simply going to key in with them. And that's how we can grow a population that, like I said, is simply attuned to a leadership mindset. So it's really like going back to the drawing board. It's really about everyone taking a part to play. It's no longer about pointing fingers. It's more about, if we want development, we've got to find our best hands stepping out and being in charge. And that's what leadership calls for.
All right. Before I let you go, I just want to know the Learning and Development Network International started after the meeting of the Big Nine or Big 11, so to speak. And over the years, it has become a rallying point, a reference point as far as development and learning is concerned. What is the bigger picture in the next, say, 5-10 years?
Oh, very good. One thing that is driving the world today is learning. If you are not learning, you're simply dying, because the rate at which things are changing just means that you must be fast-paced. And so that is where we as learning professionals are beginning to become more relevant. So whether it's in the organization, whether it's in practice, and what we want to do is create a professional body that is contemporary, that creates opportunities for learning, creates opportunity for members to continually re-engage and redevelop themselves and be relevant like any other L&D professional across the globe. We have a partnership with Association of Talent Development in the US, so that we're benchmarking against the best. So I proudly say that in the Nigerian space we are a leading voice, and we also want to create an advocacy platform to ensure that we continually begin to talk about learning. So for instance, my lecture this evening is about L&D interventions, the critical lessons for public sector organizations. So part of what we've talked about is also how much learning is deepened in public sector organizations. Because the public sector organizations are the drivers of development. So if they pay lip service to learning, then you're going to have an unskilled workforce, an unmotivated workforce, which comes back to affect development. So I have an audience this evening, and this is part of what we do. Attendance is free, but if you want to improve your knowledge and understand what it takes to run public sector organizations today, particularly allowing the L&D function take its critical place in organizations today. And you know what they say? If you think training is expensive, try ignorance.
Okay, I think on that note, we will have to leave it at that. Thank you so much, Olumide Ajamale, National President, Learning and Development Network International. Thank you so much for your appearance and insight.
Thank you, Lawrence. I have enjoyed myself, and thank you.
And I did too. So, but tomorrow is another day. Insight will return. My name is Lawrence Omoete. Enjoy the rest of your day.